Hash the leftovers that changed everything. The evening light filtered through the tall windows of Milano's, casting a golden glow across the empty tables. Marcus Whitmore sat alone at his usual corner table, the same spot he had claimed every Tuesday night for the past 3 years. The restaurant's warm atmosphere buzzed quietly around him, but he remained an island of solitude in his perfectly pressed navy suit. He cut another piece of his salmon, chewing slowly while scrolling through endless emails on his phone. The quarterly reports could wait until tomorrow, but they provided a convenient shield from the curious glances of other diners. At 42, Marcus had built an empire in commercial real estate, but success had come at a price. His corner office on the 40th floor was filled with awards and accolades, yet his apartment felt cold and empty when he returned each night. The waiter, Giuseppe, approached with practiced discretion. "The usual, Mr. Whitmore. Shall I box up the remainder?" Marcus glanced down at his plate. He had barely touched the risotto, and half the salmon remained untouched. His appetite had been poor lately, another side effect of the endless stress and isolation that defined his days. "Yes, please," he replied, already reaching for his phone to check the stock market updates. As Giuseppe cleared the table, Marcus noticed unusual movement near the restaurant's entrance. 2 small figures pressed their faces against the glass window, their breath fogging the surface. They couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, identical in every way except for the tiny braids in one girl's hair. Their white dresses, though clean, showed signs of careful mending around the edges. The twins whispered to each other, pointing at the warm glow emanating from inside the restaurant. Their eyes held a mixture of wonder and longing that made Marcus pause his scrolling. Behind them, partially hidden by the evening shadows, stood a young woman. Even from his distance, Marcus could see the exhaustion written across her face. Giuseppe returned with the takeout container, but Marcus found himself watching the small family instead of preparing to leave. The woman knelt down, speaking quietly to the twins. Whatever she said made their shoulders slump slightly, and they began to turn away from the window. That's when it happened. The bolder of the 2 twins, the one with braids, broke free from her mother's gentle grip. She pushed through the restaurant's heavy door with surprising determination, her sister following close behind. They approached Marcus's table with the fearless curiosity that only children possess. "Excuse me, sir," the first girl said, her voice barely above a whisper. "May we have your leftovers?" Marcus looked up from his phone, startled. The directness of the question caught him completely off guard. These weren't street children begging for money. There was dignity in their approach, a politeness that spoke of careful upbringing despite obvious hardship. "Emma, we shouldn't bother the nice man," the second twin whispered, tugging at her sister's dress. "But Mama said we should ask nicely when we need help, Sophie," Emma replied, never taking her eyes off Marcus. The woman appeared in the doorway, her face flushed with embarrassment. "Girls, come back here immediately. I'm so sorry, sir. They didn't mean to disturb you." Marcus studied the woman's face as she approached. She was younger than he had initially thought, probably in her late 20s. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her clothes, like her daughter's, were clean but showed signs of careful maintenance. Most striking were her eyes, the same clear blue as her daughter's, but filled with a weariness that spoke of struggles he could only imagine. "Please," the woman continued, gently taking each twin by the hand, "we'll leave you to finish your meal in peace." "Wait," Marcus said, surprising himself with the word. He looked down at Emma and Sophie, their hopeful faces turned up toward him. "What are your names?" "I'm Emma, and this is Sophie," Emma announced proudly. "We're twins, but I'm 3 minutes older." "Only 3 minutes," Sophie added with a slight smile. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. "I'm Marcus," he said, extending his hand for them to shake. They did so gravely, as if sealing an important business deal. "Are you really going to throw away all that food?" Emma asked, pointing to the takeout container. "Emma," their mother scolded gently. "It's all right," Marcus said, looking at the woman. "I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name." "Sarah," she replied quietly. "Sarah Mitchell, and I really am sorry about this. We were just walking by, and the girls saw the restaurant. They've been asking about trying fancy food ever since they saw it in a movie." Marcus made a decision that would surprise him for weeks to come. Would you like to join me for dinner? All three of you? Sarah's eyes widened. Oh, we couldn't possibly. That's very kind, but we don't want to impose. You wouldn't be imposing, Marcus said, and realized he meant it completely. I eat alone here every Tuesday night. The company would be welcome. Emma and Sophie looked up at their mother with pleading eyes. Please, Mama, the nice man has fancy food. Sarah hesitated, clearly torn between pride and her daughter's obvious excitement. We really couldn't afford to. My treat, Marcus interrupted gently. Please, it would be my pleasure. Giuseppe appeared as if by magic, already pulling out chairs and producing child-friendly menus. Marcus suspected the veteran waiter had been watching the entire exchange with approval. As they settled around the table, Marcus found himself genuinely curious about this small family. Sarah explained, with careful dignity, that they were staying temporarily at a nearby shelter while she saved money for an apartment. She had recently started a job at a local bakery, but the pay was modest and childcare expensive. We're going to have our own place soon, Sophie announced with absolute confidence. Mama promised. With a real kitchen, Emma added, where Mama can bake her special cookies. Sarah's cheeks colored slightly. I used to own a small bakery before things got difficult. Marcus found himself leaning forward, genuinely interested in their story. When was the last time he had cared about someone else's dreams? The twins chattered happily about everything from their favorite books to their plans for when they started school. Their enthusiasm was infectious, filling the space around their table with a warmth Marcus hadn't realized he'd been missing. As the evening progressed, Marcus watched Sarah's defensive walls slowly lower. She spoke about her love of baking, her hopes for the future, and her determination to provide stability for her daughters. The twins, meanwhile, approached their children's pasta with the same reverence Marcus usually reserved for board meetings. This is the best food ever, Emma declared, twirling her fork with careful concentration. Better than Mama's cookies? Sophie asked. Well, Emma considered seriously, maybe not better than Mama's cookies. Marcus smiled, a real smile that felt foreign on his face. When had he last laughed? When had he last felt this light? As the meal wound down, Marcus found himself reluctant to see the evening end. These strangers had given him something he hadn't even realized. He'd lost a sense of connection, of purpose beyond profit margins and quarterly reports. Thank you, Sarah said quietly as Giuseppe brought the check. This was incredibly kind. The girls will remember this forever. Marcus looked at the twins, now drowsy from their full bellies and exciting evening. So will I, he said, and meant it completely. The next Tuesday, Marcus arrived at Milano's with a different purpose. He had spent the week thinking about Sarah's bakery dreams, about talent wasted due to circumstances beyond her control. By the time Giuseppe approached his table, Marcus had already made several phone calls. The usual, Mr. Whitmore? Giuseppe asked with a knowing smile. Actually, Marcus said, I'm expecting company tonight. A table for 4, please. In the distance, he could see 2 small faces pressed against the window, their eyes bright with recognition and joy. Behind them, Sarah held a small envelope, the lease agreement Marcus had helped arrange for a bakery space downtown, along with the loan documents that would make her dreams possible. Marcus had spent years building an empire of steel and glass, but it had taken 2 hungry little girls to teach him that the most important construction projects were measured not in square footage, but in hope restored and lives rebuilt. As Emma and Sophie burst through the door, their laughter filling the restaurant, Marcus realized that sometimes the best business deals were the ones where everybody won, especially the heart he thought he had lost somewhere along the way.